All right. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Junking It Up with Junk You podcast. I'm Dylan. This is Steve, and this is our first Zoom podcast that we're doing. Super excited because Steve took a little tumble on the slope, so he's recovering, but he's still hanging in there and able to provide some,
Absolutely.
some value
Yep.
via Zoom. So today we want to talk about why we love junk removal, and what just kind of overall what we like about the industry, what we like about the job in particular, and kind of just how it affects everything moving forward. So why we chose junk over moving when we used to do moving. I don't know if you wanted to touch on that first, Steve, kind of to give everybody an idea.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, with whatever industry or business you're in, if you're an employee or if you own the business, it's important to at least like, but try to love as much as you can what you do. Work's a huge part of your life. And for me specifically, but us in general, I didn't really have the love for moving in the industry like I did junk removal. I think that it's a little bit of a negative environment. You're dealing with a lot of people in a really stressful state at all times. It's just one of those things that the personality for me didn't really line up. Whereas with junk, it's a similar model, but with the ability to have a little more of a positive influence onto, ourselves and also the industry in general. You know what I mean? We can be in a little bit of a
Yeah.
more positive space. People are excited to get rid of some stuff and clear out the house so they can sell it, or they want to get rid of that old couch to get the new one in. There's a lot of positivity surrounding it, and it's not as stressful for all parties involved, which makes it a lot easier to operate inside that world.
Yeah, I also think it's fun that you can get, not that you can't do this with moving, but it's a much longer process. It's more fun to see someone as a junk hauler or, removal specialist come in and, if they have a good attitude, you can quickly train them up and they can be, highly productive early, which we really love about it. You know what I mean? Not
Sure.
that we couldn't do that with moving, but it was just a little bit longer of a process. So it's more fun for us in terms of what we like to do, what we like to focus on, really kind of building that customer service model,
Hmm.
especially with our employees that are actually out in the field, which is why we love it. Also, junk removal is like a pretty massively growing industry, especially as we shift moving forward, on a macro level to being more environmentally focused because, there's things you can't throw away. There's e-waste that we're responsible for and making sure it's actually recycled.
Hmm.
So, what do you think people should know about, in terms of us when it comes to junk removal, how we, actually separate the stuff. We don't just take it and throw it away. I mean, anyone can do that, right? Anyone can just put it into a
Yeah.
truck and dump it, but actually separating the stuff out, making sure it goes to the proper places so that people know that it's, professionally, responsibly disposed of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, just to talk, on what we do specifically, first and foremost, every junk removal company says they try to donate and recycle on every single job, which is true to a degree. But it's kind of said tongue in cheek because at the end of the day, you can't guarantee what can or can't be donated
Yeah, it's
just
too hard.
based you can't just show up and just say, oh yeah, that can be donated, because even if
Yeah.
it can, just say that it's a really nice dresser and it's not too big, and typically 95% of donation centers are going to take that. If you go to 3 local donation centers in the area and there was just a furniture company that went out of business and donated all of their dressers to these 3 places, if they're inundated with dressers, they're not going to take another one until they move the
Right.
other ones off the floor. So just that, no, it's not just about the piece being able to be donated, it's about the donation centers being able to take them. So with that being said, what we do in terms of our donation guarantee service is we'll accept pictures of the items beforehand and we'll send them out to our donation network and make sure that somebody gives some sort of confirmation on what can be taken and what can't. So that way we can add transparency to our customers about exactly which pieces are going to be donated. So, there's a few customers that say, hey, like I want to have this stuff either donated or I'm going to hold on to it for, my nephew Johnny, who's going to be going to college in a few years. So if it's not going to be donated, I don't want to get rid of it. Totally
Right.
fine. We're able to facilitate that experience with the customer by saying, yes, this table definitely can be donated. This china cabinet definitely can't. Now, balls in your court of what you'd like to do with it.
Yeah, and that's a big difference from just renting a dumpster, right? And just saying,
Yeah,
oh, we'll just
yeah.
throw the stuff in, which there's nothing wrong with doing if you just want to, totally get the stuff out. But, having the ability to say, okay, we'll get someone to come in and make sure stuff goes where I want it to go and where it should go, right? And, that
Absolutely.
little bit adds up over time. And especially as I think the industry itself of, removal logistics, as we like to
Hmm.
call it, starts to grow, it's not just junk, right? It doesn't
Yes.
just get thrown into a big giant dumpster and then
Hmm.
dumped somewhere else. It's anyone can do that, but to actually come in, and I think people are, as we start to move into the space where everyone knows that it's important to try to
Hmm.
do as much as we can. I think that it's really really important. It's a big reason why we love it, right? Because we know
Absolutely.
we're moving with the trend, and it feels good to know, hey, not only do we just take the stuff out for someone, but we got it donated to someone that we wanted to, and then it also got recycled if it
Hmm.
possibly could be recycled, which is especially with the amount of work that we do, we're talking tons. I mean,
Hmm.
literally tons. 2,000 pound plus loads going into the recycling places. That makes a big difference over time. If you think about how much we do in the course of a day, a week, and then a year, that's thousands and thousands of pounds staying out of the landfill. And the more companies people use to facilitate those type of things, it adds up, over
Yeah.
time, which is really cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I would say for us in general, we try to stay up on different types of recycling, whether it be e-waste, metal, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. We're constantly staying up to date on new technologies because, like you said, it is a growing industry. It used to be commonplace, pretty much until a few years ago, where people just put things out at the curb. You had an old dresser, you
Yep.
just put it at the curb. You didn't care what happened to it. Now people are getting more environmentally aware. It's an industry that's not only growing but evolving, and that's
Yes.
a cool position to be in for us, where we understand the grassroots of it. Now we get to see where it's going and kind of stay ahead of the curve to make sure that we can be up to date on exactly what we can do to keep as much as possible out of the landfill.
Yeah, especially the electronics.
For
They're
sure.
hard to get rid of if you don't know what you're doing and you have a lot.
Hmm.
And those are kind of the type of items that people tend to buy, every year or multiple times a year. So
Yeah.
they're quickly replaced, and then they're
Hmm.
quickly also updated, by
Yep.
different companies that sell
Hmm.
them. So for us to be able to come in and actually make sure they go somewhere,
Sure.
it's super cool. And I think like you said, it's evolving. That's a great way to put it. It's evolving. Now, kind of something that you touched on a little bit, but I'd like to talk about donations and how the combination of there being sort of a shortage of labor,
Hmm.
time with the abundance of stuff makes it tough for people to just donate things, particularly on their own. If you don't have
Hmm.
the knowledge that we have, where we know, hey, this is stuff that is easily donated, this is stuff that's not, and then two, the places that we know it can go to. Certain places will take certain things and not others. Like, for example, we work with Community Warehouse Project. Shout out to them in Westchester, Pennsylvania. But they work with battered women agents to
Hmm.
help women coming out of bad situations to furnish new apartments. But there's certain stuff they won't take. So, talk a little bit about just how people can use a service like ours at Junk U to actually get those donations to a place where they can be used much more efficiently than just, going online and, or even worse, taking it to a place and then saying, we're kind of, we're full, or calling somewhere and they say, yeah, we can take it. But, maybe in 2 months when we get some people to help us out, so.
Yeah, sure. So I would say this, specifically us, but people in the junk removal industry in general, we have more resources that we know of than your common person. So even though most people do know about donation centers, and we go a step beyond that and do the donation guarantees where we specifically
Right.
contact them, we also have other resources that are outside of just a donation sense. For instance, we have a connection who does estate auctions. So what he can do is he can come into your home, he can look at everything that you have that you're looking to get rid of and actually say, give you a professional opinion of what he can and can't sell at auction.
Yeah.
Which make it, again, it's another level. And most people wouldn't think, like, if you're an average, mid 40s person, you're not thinking estate sale. You're not thinking I need an estate auction guy to come in
Sure.
to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah,
But
because that seems like for older people, right? Yeah, but
exactly. The
yeah.
term estate just sounds like an
Yes.
archaic word. So us having just the industry experience to be able to refer someone out to be able to do that gives another level of prevention in terms of things going to the landfill. And like you had mentioned with the labor market, a portion of these individuals that are not in the current labor market are out doing things on their own. This is a similar situation to, Chris, our guy. That is his full-time job. They just started a few years ago. He is out of the labor market. He is contributing to that labor shortage, but what he is doing is we are able to leverage to benefit the environment, benefit our clients, and give them an additional level of resource to be able to tap into, besides just taking it to a local donation center, which everybody and their mother is going to be doing with their stuff that they want to get rid of.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I would say, kind of back to the whole theme we've been talking about, why we love the junk removal industry, quote unquote, is, one of our models is not just junk, right? We like to say we're a removal logistics company.
Exactly.
And I think a important part of being a logistics company for removal is understanding what everything is. Kind of like you touched on, and people they get, I don't want to say weary, but they're like, well, is it really donating if I sell it? And I would say yes. You know what I mean? If it has value, you are still contributing positively to that environmental stance. If you're reusing it, it's okay.
Well, I was going to say,
value.
The slogan of recycling is reduce, reuse, recycle. So, okay, well, one of the R's in there, reuse, repurpose, whatever the case is. It means it's not just going to the landfill. Someone can use it before, whether you donate it or sell it. The whole idea behind the idea of recycling, or in this case, keeping these out of a landfill, is that it doesn't go there.
Yeah, whatever. 5+% of people, truthfully, if you use these estate services, the net you're going to get, unless you have super high end items and a very, very large home, you're probably not going to net a ton of money after you get the rest of the stuff. But if it allows you to facilitate getting the stuff out, so you sell it and it goes to somebody that's going to use it, or needs it, and then it also helps you get a professional service like ours that's going to donate the rest, and recycle as much as possible. You've really, in terms of an impact, done a good deed. You know what I mean?
Sure.
In terms of the environmental portion, because you've used those funds to also make sure you're not just throwing everything away, which might have seemed like an easier thing to do. Get a dumpster, put the stuff and throw it in, and we're done with it, right? But if you use these kind of services and think about it more, like we said, as removal logistics, you can kind of be able to do a much greater job of not just throwing everything away. And that's like one of the reasons we really love it. And, we don't just say, here's what we do, coming in and, put it on the truck and thank you for the money and leave, trying to facilitate those other services. Like you talked about our guy, Chris, who's able to come in and sell that stuff on the client's behalf. So it's really kind of comes full circle for us, right? We don't just junk it. So that's a big deal for us.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is, and I saw the stat, which is why I'm pulling it up. So they say right now, 10,000 boomers, so the baby boomer generation, turn 65 every day, so the retirement age, and they need to downsize, which is a huge deal for why our services are needed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, especially I think the older generation, they have stuff that, they're maybe hoping to pass on their kids, but it's hard to do, right? So that's what having someone like us to come in and do more than just, trash it. Again, anyone can do that, but actually making sure, hey, you've built up this house of stuff and you give it as much as you can to your kids and grandkids. But, after that, what's the plan with it, right? You're going somewhere smaller that's more manageable. We really like to kind of help that demographic as well, do actual estate, clean outs and sales. So talk a little bit about how, important it is for us to be able to provide that service for, that demographic.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this, I would say that those types of individuals that are entering the golden years, you want to make things as easy and simple as possible for them, right? I mean, you're taking somebody who's lived on this earth, been productive for 65 years, and now, most of the time we'll assume in this situation they're going to be downsizing into a retirement facility, just for sake of argument. That's a huge life change for them. Not only are they going to have to get rid of stuff that they've had for decades, but they're going to be going to a place that has a negative connotation, or at least to them has had a negative connotation their whole life. So the last thing that they need is to be dealing with this additional liability of where are we getting rid of all this stuff? Or what are we doing with all this stuff? So, the reality of the situation is, and this is one of the things that I really like about the junk removal industry in general, is we are legitimately helping people solve problems they don't really know how to even tackle. I mean, what we always say is, a part of our job in terms of the marketing front is making the industry, giving people awareness about what we do and that it even exists. A lot of people have no
Yep.
idea that
Yeah.
junk removal as an industry is there. So that's something that's exciting for me in general, is when you get that person who's, whether they're calling in for themselves or they're calling in for their elderly parents, and it's like, hey, like, what do you guys even do? Like, all I know is that I have to get all this shit out of the house, and I don't really
Yeah.
know even where to start. Being able to be a liaison to get them to that goal of emptying out the house, being able to be contributing in a positive way, and not only doing the job or helping do the job, but educating them along the way about what they can do alternatively to just hiring us to get rid of it. Like, that's a super exciting thing for
Yeah.
me in terms of specifically dealing with, the new baby boomers that are turning 65.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I know one of our core values here at JunkU is having a solutions-based mindset,
Mhm.
and I think that's focusing on the solutions, even if they're outside of just, well, you can just pay us and we'll do it. It's like,
Mhm.
sure, but actually finding a solution for, every client or, referral for their particular client. We work with a lot of realtors, property managers, and sometimes we can give answers that don't include us making any money, and that's totally fine. We don't
Sure.
mind doing that. Like we said, that we actually want to provide quality value for these removal situations. And I think the big thing for especially the boomers is they have a lot of stuff that is good, but sometimes it's hard to understand the when and who. So
Mhm.
yes, the who is, yes, somebody that needs it and wants it and can use it, and that's true. But when can they get it and when can they use it? Meaning, if you get a house under contract that you've been living in, it's a 3-4 bedroom that's 3,500 square feet and it's full of furniture. There may be people that want that stuff, but when can they get it? Who can they bring it to? And where's it going to go in that in between time? And that's kind of
Sure.
where we can help bridge the gap. So there's plenty of times where, especially like some of the professional organizers we work with may have a network of actual people, families that say, hey, they need 2 dressers and 2 twin beds, and that's great. They can get that stuff directly from the person. But there's a lot of times where, if you're that boomer that sold their house and they have to close and move out of the home in 30 days or 45 days, you don't have the type of time to directly find that person or even find that agency that's going to be able to hold it. And that's where, a company like ours is able to bridge that gap for those people, where they say, okay, it's actually going to go to somebody they want it, because we have the warehouse space or we have the resources to get it to somebody, who can hold it in the meantime, and then actually get it to somebody, which I think really helps that just everybody in general, but especially that demographic, like you said, that's worked a whole lifetime of building all this stuff up and saying, oh, okay, it's not just going to be just thrown away, which is really, like you said, I really like is really cool when we get to, facilitate those. And we've actually done a few of those especially for realtors that involve us early on in the process
Mhm.
for, the older generation, those houses, when they move on to a different, living situation, we're able to get that done very quickly. And then also it goes to, good places and for people that are
Yeah.
actually using it.
And tailoring off of that, a lot of times in at least my experience, what you see in that baby boomer demographic is they don't want to think about any of their things as being junk, because that's what they've had, the china cabinet that's been in their possession for 30 or 40 years, that means something to them. Now,
Yeah.
there's also a reality of the situation that most younger people assume a little easier, whether it be us or, that said elderly person's children. Like, no one wants it, dad. Like, no one wants the china cabinet. We're going to have to get rid of it. But what we are able to do in our position is we are able to come in. We can say that from the professional opinion that it's not going to be able to be donated, but we'll send the pictures out and we'll bring the estate auction guy in, and we will do we'll check all the boxes off before it's labeled as not worth anything, right? So that allows for those customers to be able to have a more sense of peace of mind, that they are able to say, okay, we did try multiple different means. I can now comfortably accept that this is not going to be donated, but I'm okay with it, because we did donate the other part of the dining room set. We did donate the couches. We did donate the spare bedroom set. So I feel comfortable that we maximized what we could do, and then whatever we can't, they're more at peace with letting go of.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think it's one of those things where, moving forward, there's just going to be more of that for everybody, as more people retire and just in general, the population gets older. So, I think that's a pretty good just overview of why we love junk. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons why we love the industry, and we love the actual service of what we do, and the value we provide for our clients and our referral partners.
Mhm.
But I think that's a pretty good overview. Anything else you can think of to let anyone know why we really love what we do?
I mean, I would just say it's exciting sometimes to see people who, and I already mentioned this before, but you see someone who's really in a conundrum, whether it be they have to get rid of this couch to get the new one in, or they have to deal with their parents, their parents who just deceased estate and clear out the property, and they genuinely don't know what to do. And I can understand how that helpless feeling, even me with this shoulder thing, you know what I mean? Like, I feel helpless, but then you go to the doctor and they give you peace of mind. They run the test, they do this thing. And then by the end of it, you feel comfortable with the prognosis.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're able to contribute to these people in a different lane, obviously, than the medical field, but it's a life problem nonetheless that they're experiencing and have to figure out. And we're able to positively contribute to that in more than one way. It's not just getting rid of it. We can, connect you with the donations. We can connect you with the estate sales, whatever the case may be. We're helping, like you said, to bridge the gap from an area of struggle that they're experiencing to a goal that they're looking to achieve. So, some people look at our industry and it's like, oh, look, you just threw stuff away. And it's like, it's so much deeper than that. And people don't get that externally looking in, but, having the mindset that we do and experiencing this every day, it's just exciting to be able to contribute in someone's life that they were in a genuine place of struggle and didn't know what to do.
Yeah, or even I think like even smaller scale ones, we see big ones, where there's a settlement that needs to get done that day, and we come in and we do 5, 6, 7, 8 truckloads, and it gets done in a few hours. And everybody, both sides of the transaction, go, wow, we thought this was going to delay settlement.
This is going to be a huge problem.
Maybe for a week or who knows longer, or even worse, cause some issues with the deal. But us coming in and then doing it is super cool. But also, I even like the little wins too, where someone says, oh, they got a garage full of stuff and kind of wanted to get it out. I got family coming in, or just spring cleaning. And then for them to, call us, and then that day, a lot of times come in and have a full crew, be in and out of there in 45 minutes. And they go, wow, geez, I got, 400 square feet of space back. And
look at my space I just got back. Like, now I can use this again. They get so excited.
That was possible. Yeah. They didn't think that was possible, because to them, which, rightfully so, to go through everything and then find a place for it, by themselves with their, also while they're working full time, it's just a lot to do, as opposed to then for them to have us
make a phone call
and then and quickly solve it. And then it's done. So that's another great reason why it's super fun to do what we do and get those wins for our clients. So yeah,
definitely.
Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Until next time, keep on junking.
Absolutely.